Okay, so I'm going to show you in this video, or sort of this couple of parts anyway, videos, on how to create a user form whereby someone can fill in the boxes, and then you click OK and it'll add a new record, or it'll add some new information to your Excel spreadsheet. Now obviously we could just simply go down line by line, adding them in, and that would be perfectly fine, but I felt the need for a little button that I could press. It would pop a box up with just 3 things to fill in, or 4 things to fill in. 2 of them would be a choice. Hit submit. It would add it to the very end of the spreadsheet, and you'd be done. So you wouldn't have to keep scrolling down. Maybe you've got one that's a couple hundred long, you'd have to scroll all the way to the bottom. You could just do this, clicking the button here, pop up, and it would append it to the very end. So the idea, I got this idea because I wanted to create a spreadsheet that would log all the betting that I did. So I've got the company I would use, if I deposited money or if I withdrew money. So I've got 3 separate columns there, and then I've got those columns being totaled up. So I'm just going to quickly set up a bit of a spreadsheet here just to show you. I've got 3 titles and 3 columns. The bookie, to the company I'm using, whether I'm depositing or withdrawing money. So what I want to do is, I don't know why I've messed up that now anyway, I want records to be added in here all the way down. So I might have a couple hundred long, and rather than scrolling down, I want it to just automatically add it to the end. So I'll throw up a quick example. Sky Bet is the company, I deposited £10, and then I separate these withdrawals and deposits onto separate records, because they're maybe 2 different, well, they're 2 different transactions, so I just separate them line by line. So I've got a example here of depositing and withdrawing. So I want to now total these up. So I've got totals as another sort of separate entity over here. I've got my deposit totals, my withdrawal totals, withdrawal, and then I want an overall sort of profit loss calculator. So here I'm just going to do an equals sum, and it's just going to sum up the entire of the deposit column, and then I'm going to do another equals sum here to summarize, to sum up the entire of the withdrawal column, and then I'm just going to enable these to be of a currency format, and then my overall is going to be my withdrawal minus the deposit. So here you can see £20 up, and I can put some conditional format in here, but I'll skip that for now. So just to neaten things up, I'm just going to set these 3 columns to be middle lined, just looks a bit neater. So this is my table setup. This is how I want it to be, and then I would have a button maybe here where I could just press it and it would add lines to it. So I'm going to leave this example here. I'm going to leave it there just so I can demonstrate that it's adding to the next line and the next line, and it's not overwriting. So that's that done. That's that set up. I want to go ahead and save this. I'm going to set it to my desktop. I'm just going to call it betting book. In the drop down, the save as type, I want you to save it as a macro enabled workbook. Just enables us to use other features and keep it within the same file. Hit save. And now what I want you to do is, you can either rename it down here to rename sheet 1 to anything you want, but I'm just going to leave it as sheet 1 for now. Press Alt F11 and that'll open up the Microsoft Visual Basic for Applications window. So that was Alt F11. So I want to insert a user form. I want to have this pop-up box that's going to come up with a few text boxes and some buttons that I can just go ahead and click. So I'm going to go up to Insert. I'm going to insert a user form. By default, this is the size. I'd like to drag it to the middle because I don't like working from right up against the edge, but that's that. I'm just going to resize this to something that I think is probably about right for a small little function. Obviously, if you've got more buttons in there, more boxes, it's going to be as big as you need it to be. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to whack in some labels. So right next to the mouse cursor here, big A, it's a label, and it's quite difficult to get these kind of lined up, but label 1, I'm going to type bookie. I mean, you could just put company if you wanted to, but I'm going to leave it as that. I'm just going to resize this. bring it down 1. And then I want another label underneath. I'm going to call this one's going to be amount, because that's an option. At this stage we aren't deciding yet whether it's a withdrawal or a deposit, so I'm just going to leave it as amount. Insert another label. Let's put it a bit down here. Okay, this one's going to be deposit. And then insert a 4th label. And this one's going to be withdraw. Okay, so I've got the label set up. Now I want 2 text boxes. So right next to the big A, next to the label, is text box. Insert a text box for Bookie. Okay, I would like it to be a little bit bigger. Text box 1's inserted. Let's insert another text box for the amount. Okay, I'm just going to go right to the end here on this one, just to make it look a bit neater. And then for the deposit and withdraw, I'm going to use a radio button, or as it's called in sort of Visual Basic in the user form, it's called a option button. So I'm just going to stick one of them in. Now, I think I'm doing this right. It does come with a label. Yeah, didn't mean to double click that, folks. Okay, if I click it once, let's get rid of. Don't want a label accompanying it. Can't speak properly. And then same again. I'm going to do one for the withdrawal. Now I want this to be in line, so I'm going to put that. Let's get rid of this. Label again. And resize this. You can do all this at a later stage. You can make it look neat and make everything aligned at a later stage. Finally, after we've got all these sort of requesting information off the user, I want a button, a final big button that just says submit. So I'm going to insert a button just below the checkbox here, and I'm going to make it pretty much the width of this box, and then just click onto the text once and rename it. I'm going to put submit. Okay, so there's our layout done. Now we need to start naming a few things. So what I mean by that is up here we can see it says UserForm 1. I want to rename that to be, I'm just going to rename it, look down the boxes here, you can see it says caption UserForm 1. I'm just going to call it add new record. Okay, so it's changed the name up here, and I'm also going to change the name of the user form to be add record. Note, I've put no space in and I put a capital R here. You can't put a space when it's referring to a name, because this is what we use in the coding. So now, click on your first text box. You can see here it's been given a name, text box 1. I'm going to rename this to be Bookie TXT in caps. Remember, that's very important. You have to use the caps if you put them in. Text box 2 is going to be amount TXT. Okay, just stick to these naming conventions so you know what these objects are. So this is an option button for deposit. Therefore, I'm going to call it deposit, and I'm going to call it OPT for option. Same for withdraw. Withdraw OPT. Finally, the submit button. Okay, it's called command button 1. I'm going to call it submit BTN. Okay, so that's the layout done. That's the naming conventions of all the objects that we're going to be using in the coding. All done. I want you to go ahead and save this. So you can just go File, Save, and then if you want to, just click Run here. So Run sub/userform. You can press F5 or click the button, and this is going to show you or give you an example of how it's going to look when you run the actual user form inside of the spreadsheet. So obviously test, amount 100, deposit, hit submit, nothing happens. Next, we're going to look at doing the coding behind all of this to make it actually do something in the spreadsheet.